Good morning, Bimblers. And you join me in St. Helens Cemetery. I'm absolutely full of a cold. Don't have kids if you don't want to get ill all the time. Anyway, it's such a lovely day that we could not come out bimbling. We're going to Rainford. We're going to ride down another disused railway line. So let's stop messing about and let's bimble.
Itself. To me you were a warming hand that melts to the bone. The flowers grown from my heart. To you I was a drifting line, drawn between a light to capture, but only shown in pictures sewn from my arms. Clouds kept the light from those eyes. Still, love grown, consumed. And you know, I'll never let it go. You'll find in time, I'll never let it go. You'll find it's right. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind. Mistake. To me it was a golden handshake to reapply those lazy arms in my heart. To you it was a dream it mended. To you it was a dream suspended to relocate right from the break to the start. Clouds kept the light from those eyes. Still, love grown, consumed. And you know.
And so, Bimblers, we reached Samwash Close. We turned onto Abbey Road. That's a good name, isn't it? Then onto Crank Road. Then onto Berrington's Lane. Then onto Mill Lane. And here to Samwash Close. Sandwash isn't just a clever or obscure name for a close. It's actually what they used to do around here. Wash sand. They would dig the sand up from the surrounding fields and wash out all the dirt and stones, leaving pure sand. And that pure sand would be shipped off to St. Helens to be made into glass. That's what glass is, isn't it, Bimblers? Silica. Sand. At the end of Samwash Close, you'll find the entrance to the Rainford Railway Heritage Trail, which is what we're going to bimble down. The full length Bimblers. I think what we should do is get right to the end and then work our way back. So for my next feat of extraordinary bimbling, the Rainford Railway Heritage Trail, let's bimble.
Maybe it didn't work at the time. Maybe it never did. A mistake that made the distance, or a trying way to live. Maybe it's the time that you grabbed at my arms and electricity flowed from my shoulders to palms in a white hot glow, leaving white cold scars left bare and on show just to prove they were ours. Maybe it worked, maybe it never did, maybe it never was quite like how it is. Maybe it didn't work at the time, maybe it never did. A novelty improvement, left lonely as it gives. Or maybe it's the time that you closed both your eyes and you pouted your lips as you waited for mine in the soft red glow of your soft cold arms. Serotonin burnt holes through my veins to my heart. Maybe it worked, maybe it never did, maybe it never was quite like how it is. Maybe it's the time that I wanted to say that my limbs won't move more than 2 feet away from your day glow side luminescent sparks. I could burst into flames from one beat from your heart. Maybe it worked, maybe it never did, maybe it never was quite like how it is.
Where we are right now, Bimblers, used to be known as Rainford Junction, not Rainford Station. It was where this line, which was originally the Liverpool, Bolton and Bury Railway, met up with the Skelmersdale branch of the East Lancashire Railway and the St Helens Railway that we've just bimbled down. All the railways going east to west and west to east had a lattice work of railways that went north to south and south to north. You could have got from here all the way to Widnes, all along that path we just bimbled down. This line and the Skelmersdale branch were opened in 1858, and the St Helens line was opened in 1864. That eventually became part of the London and North Western Railway. There was a big boom in railway building back then, but the bubble burst, no doubt thanks to the East Lancs Road, then eventually the M62. They started closing all the lines. The line going to St Helens closed to passengers in 1951, then closed to goods in 1963, thanks to Mr Beechin, the patron saint of all bimblers and cycle paths. And luckily for us, he did his magic around here. In the 1980s, that disused railway became a lovely linear park for us to bimble down. Anyway, we've reached Rainford Station. It's time to go into the centre of Rainford, back down the old disused line, because I've heard they've got a church. Let's bimble.
Maybe it never was quite like how it is. Maybe it's the time that I wanted to say that my limbs won't move more than 2 feet away from your day glow side luminescent sparks. I could burst into flames from one beat from your heart. Maybe it worked, maybe it never did, maybe it never was quite like how it is. Maybe it worked, maybe it never did, maybe it never was quite like how it is. And I quite like how it is.
There's been an All Saints church here in Rainford since 1694, but the current building dates back to 1878. It cost £7,027 to build. That's about £700,000 in today's money. And £2,000 of that, so £200,000, came from Lord Derby. At the time, Lord Derby would have been Frederick Arthur Stanley. He was once the MP for Blackpool. That's why they have Stanley Park in Blackpool, you know, where the zoo is. It was his son Edward that opened the park in 1926. Frederick's father, so Edward's grandfather, was the 3 times Prime Minister of the UK. He was Prime Minister in 1852, 1858 and 1866. Do you know, to build All Saints Church here in Rainford, the new one, they had to knock down a pub, the old Golden Lion. Sacrilege. But they did give the landlord a new premises just next door, which is still there today, also called the Golden Lion. The tower on the existing church was only put on in 1902. It was put on to commemorate the coronation of Edward VII. Very nice thing to do for him. Do you know Edward VII is the reason why we all like roast beef and Yorkshire pudding? He popularised it, you see. Because he liked it, we all started eating it to try and, emulate him. He had a big appetite, apparently. He used to eat 5 meals a day. He smoked 20 cigarettes and 12 cigars. It was his love of smoking that gave us King Edward cigars, wasn't it? It was named after him. According to Historic England, that tower dedicated to Edward VII was installed by Henry Paley. That's Edward Graham Paley's son. You know how much I like him. And I think that means that the rest of the church was built by Edward Graham Paley and his partner Hubert Austin, possibly with some help from Henry Paley. It's one of my new favourites. Anyway, we spoke about smoking cigarettes and smoking cigars. What about smoking a pipe? Let's bimble. And so, Bimblers, we reach Journey's End, our final portage, the back of Rainford Library, or at least what used to be Rainford Library. It's been closed for about a year now. According to the Same Telling Star, they're going to knock it down and build flats or posh houses or something. Clearly there hasn't always been a library here though. Apparently there used to be a pub here before the library, just like at All Saints Church. And before that, there would have been a factory that made clay pipes, clay pipes for smoking tobacco. It was big business around here in Rainford, the old clay pipe making. They believe that's because the industry was very dominated by Catholic people. And here in Rainford, they didn't really mind having Catholic people about. The first of the clay pipe manufacturers opened in 1650, and in them days, it was against the law to be Catholic. It was against the law to go to any church other than the Church of England one. I think it was against the law not to go to church. But here in Rainford, they were a little bit laissez-faire, They had a United Reformed Church, Presbyterians, Methodists, as well as your Church of England and your Catholics. Even though Rainford was a perfect dwelling for these Catholic pipe makers, they couldn't actually get any clay from round here. The clay used to make those clay pipes comes from Devon and Cornwall. It's a very specific type of clay. God knows how they got it here. It was long before the railways and a little bit before the Sankey Canal. Back when they first started making the clay pipes back in the 1650s, they would have only have been very small. You can actually date clay pipes by the size of the bowl. That's because tobacco was very expensive in the 1650s. But as trade with America got better and better, and we started bringing over sugar and cotton and sending over slaves, well, the tobacco got cheaper. Because it was cheaper, people bought more and they smoked more, so you needed bigger bowls on your pipes. The actual clay pipes themselves were seen to be disposable. They quite often break. They're a little bit like them new vape pens. You can just throw them away. There's an epidemic waiting to happen. Just like clay pipes, only 10 times more addictive. In the 1950s here in the UK, most people stopped smoking pipes. There was a piano teacher at my college that used to smoke a pipe, and he said it was his GP that told him to start smoking it. You see, his housemate got TB, And the doctor didn't want them to be sharing cigarettes, you know, passing TB back and forth. So he advised him to start smoking a pipe, which he did, right up until the early noughties. I should imagine he's not alive anymore. Bryn Rainford in the 1950s, the last of those clay pipe makers, closed down. That was D. Swallow & Co. He retired and his factory was knocked down to build nice houses. Just like they're going to knock down Rainford Library.